2/3 of the way into the 2015 Season 1 Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Championship here. Coverage will start on RaceSpotTV after these messages.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Summit Point Raceway for coverage of the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Championship here on RaceSpotTV. Well, Vincent, along with Rachel Whiteford, qualifying has just got itself underway. Don't forget, you can keep in contact with us on Facebook.com/RaceSpotTV as we're into our second year of coverage. Yeah, imagine that one. You can see then 15 minutes left in qualifications as it stands right now. And, well, we've got ourselves a number of drivers trying to get themselves as far up the grid as possible. Roderick Savidovic just having himself a bit of a crazy moment there as he is working himself right now on the racetrack in P number 3. And we ride along board with George Lee Wright's actually, Rachel, just gone to pole position. And it's a bit of a cluster in the mid part of the racetrack here.
It is indeed. Well, of course, open qualifying here today and things very, very busy. Wojciech having to find a way to get back in the traffic there because, well, very busy section of the racetrack. Very tight, twisty course, as we know. So group qualifying can be a problem when you get stuck behind slower traffic, especially for the slower traffic, getting stuck in front of fast traffic. So hopefully we'll get everyone's laps in, but of course this may leave some people out of position.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by the Skip Barber 2K World Cup, which is on Saturday nights, of course, here on RaceSpotTV. 2 great Skip Barber races every single week. So then we ride along board with the driver of Keith Sharp, currently scored 2nd place in qualifying as he's going to work himself towards the start-finish line. So P2 in qualifying as he works himself on the exit of turn number 1. On a fast lap right now, we ride along board with him. As you can see there, well, his sector 1 was 36 seconds, 36.019, working himself towards the timing loop towards the end of sector 1 now. Then after this fast section starts on lap, Rachel, you're into a very difficult infield, and Keith Sharp is a couple of attempts slower there in his first sector. So this looks like it's going to be a throwaway lap for him.
It does indeed. Well, of course, very easy to mess this lap up here. As we mentioned, tight and twisty, and opportunities to get those curbs a little wrong and slow that car down. Hopefully he'll be building up for a fast lap. Watch for him to be making a real go at that final corner, slowing it down in the entry just to get that real run out so he can set a hot lap.
You can see George Lee Wright, though, is in pole position. Gap between himself and Keith Sharp is currently 46 of a second. Lee Wright getting held up a little bit there as they work themselves through this infield section. It's tight, it's twisty, it's difficult. You want to get yourself a good run out of here. Now, if you're Lee Wright, what you want to do is line up that car ahead of you. Try and work down to the inside of it, but he's slow there. What he's going to try and aim to do now is stay in position so that he can get himself a run out of that final corner, work himself down. Roger Zaridovich just a couple of places ahead on the racetrack. You can see Zaridovich there coming past the start-finish line, pushing very wide in that number 80 car. But now we'll go back on board with George Lee Wright because he's going to get himself a huge tow as he comes back down towards turn number 1 again. And it's currently Lee Wright from Sharp, from Zaridovich from Ward, Adcock in your top 5, and Lee White having to get out of the gas there. Well, that's another lap gone to waste for him. As you can see, still trying to go flat out there. He's actually going to work himself alongside. Pretty wide there. He's going to make contact with that number 72 car. That would invalidate that lap of that number 72 machine. Trying to go 3 wide at that portion of the racetrack. Never a good idea, Rachel.
Never, ever indeed will. Very tough section to get that right and easy to get it wrong. 3 wide in qualifying is certainly not what you want. Of course, it puts everybody on an unideal line.
There you can see your top 20 in qualifying right now. As this keeps on moving around. Mark Mercer just moving himself up into 3rd place on the racetrack. There you can see him coming down in towards turn 1 again. Paul Grillo just right behind him on the racetrack. Grillo working himself down into that first corner once again, riding along board with him then as he works himself on the exit of corner number 1. Now, in these open qualifyings, we always talk about drivers working together, like getting themselves that draft from that slipstream. It's kind of difficult at this racetrack, Rach, because you want that slipstream down the front straightaway and on the exit of the infield section, but after turn number 5, you do not want any traffic around you.
No, you don't, of course. It's the toughest part. It's lots of short, twisty corners, so you need space. You want to be able to track out, you want to be able to get that foot down in the right place. You want to be able to actually do in your hot laps, not having to look who's around you and who's behind and who's in front.
There you can see Mark Mercer. Gap between himself and the leader in qualifying is 7/100ths of a second. He's slowing it right down, however, you see, letting 2 cars go past him as he works himself on the exit of the infield once again. Zaridovich then going to line himself up for another lap in that number 80 machine coming down in towards turn number 2 once again. There we can see him right on the board, pushing wide. We saw this on Saturday night, Rachel. A lot of drivers pushing wide at that corner. Well, that's exactly what Zaridovich done, and we saw some incredible saves at that section of the racetrack.
We did indeed, and very difficult section, so that corner's been really bugging people in this car. It's a very fast corner, so you have the tendency to want to track out a little too far, and when you do that, you get on the grass there, and it can really wobble this car up, especially if you spin one of those tyres.
Well, there you can see 10 minutes of qualifying remaining As the qualifying times you can see them there up on your screen, it is still Lee Wright leading away. Sharp back up into second place, and well, he does an average for sector 1, 36.187. No traffic around him though. That means that he should get a good run through this infield section. We continue to ride it along board of him. Adcock's currently in 4th place, Daniel's in 5th, Shavinovic now down into 6th place, but is on a lap as we turn our attention then to that driver of Roderick Savinovic as he works himself. You can see down towards the final corner he will come. Actually, down in towards turn number 1 he comes. So he's onto a flying lap. We go back to look at Keith Sharp as he works himself on the exit of that final corner, tracking a little bit wide, keeping all 4 wheels off of that gravel. Towards the start finish line he will go. His previous lap by 1 minute 24. This one at 122.170. Not good enough to move him up the field at all. So we'll go back and have a look at Roderick Savinovic as George Lee Wright is currently on pit road. Mark Mercer is on the racetrack. Stuart Adcock on the racetrack. Matthew Daniels on the racetrack. Savinovic, we can see him here. He's got a little bit of traffic ahead of him. He won't catch that until probably the end of this infield section. But Rachel, that's a perfect place for him to pick up that toe as he works himself towards the final corner.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a toe that will help add to that lap time. Of course, open qualifying here will. Everyone's on the track at the same time. Catch them in that midfield section. It's going to slow you down. Get them in the run up to the final corner. In the final corner, especially a teammate. And that can be massively beneficial. Especially that teammate, if they're going to throw the lap themselves, they can draft you all the way down to turn 1. Pull out the way, give you the corner, and off you go.
Yeah, as you can see there's Savinovic pushing a little bit wide at that final corner. His previous lap was an out lap. He works himself towards the start finish line again. It's going to be a 122.066. Not fast enough there for Roderick Savinovic as he works himself back down in towards that first corner. Keith Sharp still in that second place. We have a look then from our aerial coverage as he works himself down towards the end of another lap then. So can Sharp improve it? He's done himself a couple of laps on this set of tyres coming past the start finish line once again for him, and it's going to be a 1 minute 22.098. Not any faster for him then. He remains in that second place. But Mark Mercer, there we can see him now coming down into that final corner. And Rachel, Mark Mercer's got a lot of traffic ahead of him. You can see that dancing around as he comes down towards the start finish line, but he is not quite going to go to pole position. He does improve on his time, but just a little bit there. And you say still scored in that 3rd place, but a lot of traffic around him down in towards that first corner.
Yep, there is, and that 3rd place may not be a big problem here. We saw a lot of passing happening on Saturday night. Of course, that race involving pit stops, this one will be shorter and of course a little bit more aggressive, Will. 1 tank of fuel means track position will be important, but you can make passes. That infield section is tight, but there's room to make moves.
Tom Ward's up into 3rd place in qualifications right now. You can see his last lap time was a 121.612. As well, you can see that the gap between himself and the overall qualifications race leader, which is George Lee Wright, is just 1/10 of a second right now. So not much in it as Tom Ward is running in that 3rd place. Just to let you know, Lee Wright is still on pit road. So he's going to wait until the end before it looks like he's going to try and go back out onto the racetrack. But we rattle on board with Paul Grillo, and he's going to get himself a good run here down towards that final corner, just clipping the grass a little bit. He'll get away with that one coming down in towards the final corner. Let's have a look at his sector times. A 35.9 sector 1, 31.3 sector 2. It's looking good for Paul Grillo as he works himself out the final corner down towards the start finish line, and the lap time for Paul Grillo is going to be a 121.710. Not quite close enough, Rachel.
No, not quite close enough, but it certainly has him up there where he needs to be, Will. That's starting at the right portion of this field, so important positioning for him.
And you can see now Adcock is on a bit of a flyer as well. He's got himself that number 41 car just ahead of him as he works himself out of the final corner. Let's have a look at the sectors then. Good sector 1, good sector 2, towards the start finish line. Stuart Adcock currently P6, right up behind the 41. He cannot get to pole position. He remains in 5th place for the time being. It looks as though that none of these drivers can improve. It almost looks as though they've hit their plateau early. Jonathan Maycock is in this big draft pack though right now, Rachel. He's one driver on the outside of the top 15, trying to get inside of the top 10.
Yes, he is, and that will be very important for him, of course. Top 15, you're mired in a lot of traffic, and obviously early on that front pack will get away quite easily if you're fighting. Fully expect a lot of fighting here, Will, because this initial lap, it's slow, the tyres are cold, so there'll be a lot of bulking up and a lot of pack running. We saw 2 and 3 wide running into turn 1 and out of that first sector, so I think you want to be as close to front, top 5 definitely, just to be in that pack that runs away.
Well, I'm just going to have a look down the field, and you can see James Steele in the 23rd position. He is still within 1 second of your overall race leader, and that shows you just how tight this field is, Rachel, as we have ourselves Grillo moving up into 3rd place in qualifying. So it's now currently Leroy from Sharp, from Grillo, from Ward, from Mercer. Doesn't look as though anyone can yet get up to the rear of George Lee Wright, but we start ourselves, well, pretty much our entire top 25 separated by just over 3/4 of a second.
We do, and that's a very tight field, and that's one of the things I love about this series. Well, it is so competitive. Could be one of any 20 people any week taking a race win. The top 10 here is full of race winners. We've got the top 20 full of people who often end up in the top 10. Blake Townend's at Townend, of course, making a return to this series. He's been gone for a long time, but he is a big name to watch.
Yeah, he is currently down in the 21st place in qualifying, but there you can see the Radical Steel Series car. Of course, anyone who's watching our coverage on RaceSpotTV yesterday will know that they were victorious in the Neo Endurance Series last night. As we have a look then from the rear of that number 21 car, working himself on the exit of corner number 1, down towards turn 2, 3 once again. You can see that number 57 car. We'll keep an eye on it then with 3 minutes and change remaining in today's qualification session. Here you can see then it is Paul Grillo working himself on the exit of the final corner once again. Paul Grillo will remain in 3rd place for the time being, and you've got yourself Mark Mercer around him as well. Mercer does not improve his position either, but we've got that train of forming now, as we're just going to pay our attention to that number 21 car in line as Mercer tries to look down to the inside actually of Paul Grillo, and that's completely ruined his lap, Rachel.
Yep, a little excitable there, and that's what I mentioned about people being a little faster, possibly knocking off the lap times of some of the faster, not as quick drivers here. Just because you happen to have a good sector might put you right in the back of someone in a position to pass them, and, well, they might be faster than you or exactly the same speed, but just one sector means you have the advantage. I could knock them off their position they might have gained. So it's one of those things we have with open qualifying, Will, and it's something that is quite common in real motor racing and other forms, but it does often end up being a luck game, and we see on a track like this where it's very tight, that would be a big factor. Bigger tracks like Road America, Circuit Americas, very different, of course, lots of space. Here there's maybe 1 or 2 lines, so it's crapshoot.
Yeah, as you can see then, Pete Newman currently scored in 13th place in qualifying. There you can see Tim Adcock. He's had himself a good lap. He's at the rear end of the top 20 as he works himself then towards the start-finish line. His previous lap was a 1:22.072, working himself past the start-finish line once again. It's going to be slower. 1:22.5 as he works himself back down in towards that first corner once again. Now, there's 2 laps for each of these drivers to go. One driver you need to pay attention to is Paul Grillo. He's got himself a good run there through turn 1. We had a car turn around, no real issues though. As Grillo works himself on the exit of turn 1, and Tom Ward goes to pole position, Rachel.
He does indeed, Will, and he's been working well. He's been beaten by Wojciech Savidovic actually, but yeah, that's a great lap there from Tom Ward, 21.486. Of course, helped a lot by his teammate Richard Avery in that Friction Racing stable. Savidovic though, topping the pair of them.
Yeah, and George Lee Wright is not out on the racetrack with 1:20 to go. He will not get another qualification lap in. He will start no higher than P3. It's Savidovic and Ward, from White, from Sharp, from Grillo and Mercer. We're looking then at Grillo right on the rear of Mark Mercer as they work himself towards the end of a lap. This could potentially move Grillo towards the front of the field. He is only a couple of tenths of a second back right now. As you can see, he's just over 1/10 of a second down to that final corner. He will go, and you can see Mark Mercer pushing wide. This could actually hinder Grillo's lap. You can see Grillo trying to take all the room he possibly can. Mark Mercer coming back onto the racetrack right now. Paul Grillo coming past the start finish line, and Paul Grillo will... Yes, he will! Pole position for Paul Grillo then, with 35 seconds to go. Grillo, that was one of the perfect laps you can get in this tournament qualifications, Rachel, and Mercer will not be able to respond.
He will not, and that was incredible. But we thought it was going to hold him up when that car came back on the track, Will. I think that gave him everything he needed. That car of Mark Mercer there, literally giving him the pole at the last second. You saw Grillo, he waited to pull out until they were nearly crossing the line. He did everything to draft as close as possible. That overspeed from that Club 100 car, bam, clear of the second place car. Well, second and third, originally first and second, were 1/1000ths apart. He's just taken 800ths out of that time with a 4:07. So blistering lap there from Grillo. All of that, I think, from the draft.
But don't count out Shavidovic. There is a driver just around him. As you can see, it's actually going to hinder him as he works himself into the infield section. Checkered flag is out. Whatever lap these drivers are on, well, this is going to be their last lap. That's a 7:08 car of Rob Kane just ahead. And Shavidovic is going to have to hope he's actually cracking the throttle there. I don't think this is going to be any faster, but we'll stick it on board with him as we're trying to figure out where Richard Avery is as well. We don't think that Avery will be able to do a lap fast enough. You see Shavidovic then. One more corner to go. Can he get himself back up into pole position? Down to that final corner, he will come. There's going to be 3 drivers, like it's going to be divided toe for Shavidovic as he works himself towards the start-finish line. But will he be able to do it? Roderick Shavidovic trying to get himself to pole position in the dying moment of qualifying, and the answer is going to be yes, he will. No, he won't. Yes, he will. Roderick Shavidovic going to pole position in the dying moment of qualifying. Shavidovic, last driver past the stripe, is going to claim pole position here today. And what a dramatic end to qualifying. Jonathan Maycock bringing his car into pit road. You got Blake Townend working himself towards start-finish line now. He having a dismal qualifying here outside of the top 20. Qualifying is complete. Let's run yourself through your starting grid. And well, in the last moment of qualifying, it is Roderick Shavidovic who claims pole position by 84/1000ths of a second over Paul Grillo. Tom Ward in third. George Lee Wright in the 4th position. And then we head on back and look through our grid. But Rachel, that's what this series is all about. Right to the final moment of qualifying, it goes once again.
Yeah, absolutely. That was just spectacular. We always say that the fastest lap will usually be the last one across the line, but I don't think we expected that to come from Roderick Shavidovic. We know he's fast, but that was just impeccable timing. Everything slotted into position. That draft, nearly crossing the line 3 wide there. That was an amazing pole lap.
As you can see, looking through your field, it's a packed one, Rachel, and that means turn number 1, that first lap, is going to be hairy.
Oh, it will be, but not as hairy as turn number 1 on lap 2 will once they're fully up to speed. Of course, these guys coming from the starting grid halfway down that road, straightway, so turn 1, lap 2, I think for me will be the action spot, but we never miss a trick on lap 1.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to coverage then of the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Championship here on RaceSpotTV. Waiting for the cars to start working themselves then onto the starting grid. Will Vincent along with Rachel Whiteford here on RaceSpotTV. Facebook.com/RaceSpotTV for all the latest news, information and events. Don't forget to like us and subscribe to us on YouTube as well. As we're just waiting now for some other drivers towards the front of the field to get themselves towards the grid. As we'll go racing here today in the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber World Cup, presenting sponsor of tonight's event. And they've got themselves a very entertaining event coming up in week 13. More details of that one to come over the next couple of days. So then, waiting for the last couple of drivers of Raymond Morris and Liam Williams to head themselves down to the starting grid before we can let this one get rip. The engines just starting to turn over on that starting grid. There you can see your first couple of rows. You can see as we have a look up above here as these drivers in any moment now will get ready to go racing. Engines are revving. This race will start right now, and you can see there's a good start by Shavidovic, a good start by Grillo also. Tom Ward falling into position. These cars trying to get themselves single file, but it's going to be a very long run down in towards turn 1. There you can see them all storming down into that first corner, and Grillo trying to look around the outside as they come down in towards turn number 1. 3 wide down into turn number 1, and George Lee right there, you can see 2 wide, 2 deep. Grillo getting bumped a little bit there. They remain 2 wide to work themselves out of that corner, and we have got contact in the rear of the field. We'll come to that one in a moment because they are still 3 wide down in the pack as they come down in towards turn number 2 for the first time. As you can see, still battling very hard there at the front part of your field. Tim Adcock off at the rear of the field, and we've had ourselves a couple of drivers having themselves some issues in the early going. There you can see Tim Adcock well down in the pack right now. He is all the way down in the 36th position, but out front, Rachel, well, you've had yourself a barnstorming start to this race, and it's only going to get more crazy in the next minute or so.
Yeah, that's true, and Rich Jones just running off there on the outside of turn 5. He was off outside turn 3 as well. But very exciting first lap. Very clean first lap, though. We've had not much go wrong. I do believe that incident there, though, involving Tim Adcock was actually partly to do with not Jonathan Maycock, I apologise. That would be, I think it was Adrian Bidwell, Will. He just had a bit of a running wide in turn 1 and a bit of contact there, but nothing major.
Here we come then, big battle, and as you see Davidovich getting himself a 1.8 second advantage. Tom Ward in second place, the field lining up 2 by 2, 3 wide, down in towards turn 1, Butterful P2, 3, 4, 5 on the racetrack, down in towards that first corner they come once again, round the outside. You can see that number 32 machine of Keith Sharp trying to hold it together. He does indeed do so. It will give him the inside line into the next corner as well. You can see he's running side by side right now with that number 33 car of Mark Mercer as they come down into that second corner. You talked about how turn number 1 was going to be a crazy one, Rachel. It was on that lap. Drivers pushing wide there on the exit of turn 3 as they come down into the infield section once again. Mighty close, but Davidovich is pulling away. He's 3 seconds ahead of the field right now.
Yeah, that's what I said, Will. This is that clean air we mentioned. Of course, we said the front pack would get away, but I never thought the front pack would be one car. Lots of heavy fighting in this very difficult circuit here means everyone's slower than they could be. Of course, you got a bit of clean out. Davidovich has. He can run away, doing as somebody mentioned, as Sebastian Jobe got an engine blown, I believe, somewhere in the field, Will.
Yeah, James Steele, a little bit of an incident there. You can see James Steele as they are still trying to, you can see, form around one car who's stopped on the racetrack right now. Another couple of drivers go off, and we have ourselves a 4-car incident. As you can see, drivers still skating around, and Blake Townend is involved in that one as well. We get ourselves another look at that one whilst we have a quick opportunity to do so, as we'll ride this one along board then with that driver of James Steele. You can see there, it's just the fact that some of these drivers using a lot of curb, and actually they still just ran into the rear of that number 58 car, Rachel, and well, and after that it was a point of drivers trying to scatter to avoid, but a couple of drivers getting caught in the melee there, and it's Pete Newman, the driver, who is stuck on the racetrack.
It was indeed Newman running into the back of Rob Kane there, and they got nose to tail with those 3 cars a few times, and a little bit of miscommunication, bumping and banging. Just ended up going a little too far when that piggy in the middle, Pete Newman, just got, well, sandwiched.
There you can see the gap from Paul Grillo, currently in second, to your race leader. It is 3.3 seconds right now as we have a look from the rear of Paul Grillo. There you can see, driver behind him is Tom Ward, who worked themselves down through the exit of the infield section once again. But it's very close racing in your pack. However, it does allow Roderick Davidovich to continue to put out the gap. At some point, Rachel, do you think these drivers are going to settle it down? Or do you think now that these drivers have thought, well, Davidovich has got this one in the bag, let's go racing ourselves?
Well, it's difficult to say, Will. Of course, normally we see fights for the win in these series, but right now I think nobody wants literally to let Davidovich run away with this, but that doesn't seem to be their decision, so it could well be a fight for those final 2 podium positions, and right now Tom Ward disagrees who should have second.
Yeah, and here comes then Tom Ward. He is going to move himself up into that second position in that 09 car. As you can see, the gap between himself and Paul Grillo, just a half second right now to work themselves on the exit of turn number 1 again. Lap number 4 of 19 here. Now, this is actually one of the longer events of the series because of how short the lap is, but how long it takes to get around this infield section. Of course, very fast sections as well means that this is going to be one of the tougher tests for these drivers. Give you an update on drivers who are currently scored as down the field or out of the race. You have Alex Adler, Liam Matthews out of the race. Tim Gibson is scored on pit road right now. Blake Townend very rear of the field for him right now in P number 36. Paul Thurston down in the 35th position. Tim Adcock, we talked about him earlier, P34. Adrian Bidwell, Mark Turner also scored well down the field right now. But out front, Roderick Davidovich with a 3.4 second advantage. That last time by, still bringing that gap up. He was a tenth of a second faster last time by than Tom Ward. Tom Ward now the lead of that front train, which has got Paul Grillo in third, George Lee Wright in fourth, and then rounding out your top 5, it is Mark Mercer. We'll show you the biggest movers and gainers in this race so far. Ironically, Rachel, not much change inside your top 10. Oh, we got a car upside down.
We do indeed, and that's Alan Percy, has been involved in that one. Not entirely sure what happened there, but he comes into the corner, Will, with the Club 100 machine next to him, the number 100 of Jonathan Maycock. Those two running into the corner. Maycock brushes out wide, turns Percy around. Yeah, I think that was a breakdancing move right there.
Yeah, we can see then down into the final corner they come, and right about here, you'll notice Jonathan Maycock working himself side by side and just catching that white line on the inside of the corner. And from there on, the two making contact, we see the car, the 808 machine, being flipped upside down and around right about now. As you can see, upside down, yeah, it's a breakdance party for that 808 car. As you can see, back to the live coverage we go then. As it's still Savidovic leading by 3.6 seconds now. As we've got ourselves driver falling down the field. That's George Lee Wright involved in a two-wide situation there. As moving himself back up through the field is Stuart Adcock, Rachel, forcing his way through. Keith Shark still there in the mix, but what's happened is we've now got ourselves a three-car pack separated by two wide, two deep as they work themselves into that final corner.
They do indeed, and Stuart Adcock doing everything he can to hold that train there from Keith Sharp. Of course, the guys behind him, Avery and Daniels, two very fast cars. Streetley and Williams, Rob Kane and Norris. This is not going to be an easy little fight here. These guys are going at it tooth and nail, and they will definitely try and catch up. But oh, sounds like we had some more contact somewhere, or someone's been misbehaving.
And Lee Wright there making contact, that number 32 car, as we would see. Paul Grillo, not Paul Grillo, sorry.
Antonides in.
Williams and Antonides is onto pit road. We'll come back to that one in a little bit. But you can see Richard Avery side by side with George Lee Wright as they work themselves then down towards turn number 2, running on board with Richard Avery down in that 7th place on the racetrack. But still, Rachel, what this has done now all of a sudden is you've got yourselves 3 seconds between Mark Mercer and Stuart Adcock. Going 3 wide into turn 1 here is going to cost you a boatload of time.
Absolutely, as I said, you can't take that ideal line and it will cost you a lot of time. As it stands right now, we've got Grillo and Ward running away, Mercer kind of piggy in the middle on his own, with Stuart Adcock and his Conga following up behind them to round out your top 10, and this is certainly a busy fight.
Well, there you can see then Keith Sharp in that 6th position. He's got Richard Avery behind him, George Lee Wright in 8th, Clark Williams in 9th, and Matthew Daniels rounding out your top 10 right now. As you can have a look there at Clark Williams, currently scored in the 9th position on the racetrack, up 1 position where he started. Now, George Lee Wright is your biggest loser so far in the top 10. He is down 3 spots from where he started. And that middle pack now is getting very shuffled out. Behind, just to let you know, you've got Matthew Daniels on the charge as they come down in towards turn 1. He's going to look down to the inside. As you can see there, he's going to try and get himself past that driver of Clark Williams at number 88 and 98 car even.
Lee Wright contact.
And there is George Lee Wright. He's falling back down once again, so we'll get ourselves a look. And you see George Lee Wright down now in the 8th position, which is going to now form yourself a 3rd pack here. It's getting spread out once again. And we're very close, Rachel, to a situation of 3-car packs right now as this field starts to get spread out and drivers kicking up a lot of dust on the exit of turn number 3.
They are indeed, Will, and it seems to be that Grillo, Ward and Mercer have actually calmed down a little bit, running in line now. They're going to try and go after Savidovic, I think. Those 3 are not happy with 2nd.
Yeah, there you can see that a contact with George Lee Wright and that number 32 car of Keith Sharp as they work themselves out of turn 1. Lee Wright now down into the 8th place on the racetrack. But what it has been that last time by, actually, for the first time in this race, Rachel, we had ourselves Paul Grillo going faster than Roderick Savidovic. And, well, it's only taken them 7 laps to calm down, but they are going to try and mount a comeback all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think they are, and if 3 cars could do it, these are some of the names we imagine to be on that list. He's still in sight, and they know he is, so he's not that far away. It's only 3.7 seconds, Will, so there is definitely a lot of opportunity for them to make this one up, as, oh, we're going to look like it's at least a 2 wide. Ward wanting to sit in 2nd whilst they make this charge, and Grillo giving up the position to both of them.
Yeah, there you can see Paul Grillo. We just saw Maycock, by the way. He is on pit road right now as Grillo's going to try and come back over Mark Mercer as they work themselves down in towards turn number 2 and 3. And once again, he can see riding along board with Paul Grillo. That last time by the way, Ward 0.2 of a second slower than Roderick Savidovic. That gap is currently 4 seconds. And I think what's going on here, Rachel, is that these drivers just trying to do good old-fashioned IndyCar drafting, where actually it's sometimes faster to allow your competition to go past you down into towards turn number 1 and also turn 2 and 3 because of the overspeed that you're going to get, and then you fall back into line. In theory, you can go faster as this, well, 2nd and 3rd pack have now caught back up again.
Yep, they have, Will, and that will only add to the excitement that's going to be going on right now. Adcock and his pack not really catching up there with the back of pack 2. But the guys behind them definitely joining back in again, and Lee Wright will be hopefully, well, he wants to get in some places, but I don't think the others will want him to fight with them.
Yeah, by the way, we've had ourselves another incident. As you can see, David Grunhill on pit road. We'll see if I can get ourselves another look at that one then. As David Grunhill involved in an incident with Ross and McWilliam. Not quite sure what happened. Actually, it looks like Grunhill's going to loop it all by himself, falling himself hard into a spin there. And I think he brought that car onto pit road because of it. But here we can see side-by-side racing once again. Stuart Avery, Stuart Adcock, as they come down in towards turn number 1. It's that number 52 car there of Richard Avery. You've got yourselves that driver of Keith Sharp just ahead of him. But Richard Avery battling with Stuart Adcock. And what it's done again, Rachel, is it's spread this pack out just a little bit.
Yeah, but contact there between Lee Wright and that's the number 41, Will, of Matthew Daniels. Well, we know he's a tough racer, but it is. That was exciting. Lee Wright just wobbled and he pushed him across onto the gravel there. Those three getting away with it at that point, but Lee Wright's car certainly not enjoyed that. He's falling back.
Yeah, let's have a look then. On board with George Lee Wright, there you can see one look at it from on board, and that car starting to wobble because of it. We'll try and get ourselves another look at that one then from George Lee Wright as he works himself through turn number 1 and 2. You see, it's just one of those things here. This track is so narrow. We've talked about this one already. And tempers, well, they do get, and that's down in towards turn number 1. That was the number 41 car of Matthew Daniels. And then Lee Wright's car starts to swerve around. He struggles at number 10 car, almost running into the side of him. That was George Streetley as they worked themselves on the exit of turn number 1. But what it does mean, Rachel, is that pack is kind of calmed itself down a little bit. But Keith Sharp, Richard Avery, they continue to battle for position. And this is going to be P5 and 6 and 7 with Richard Avery, Keith Sharp and Stuart Adcock.
They do indeed, Will, and Keith Sharp, he's given up a place right now to Richard Avery in that friction racing machine. He's now leading that second pack, who have actually gained a little bit on the pack of Grillo, Mercer and Ward. Those three, however, losing ground now to Savidovic, who is again a further second ahead, 4.3 seconds up the road. Nearly full corner.
Yep, as you can see there, having a look down the pack here, you can see the driver of Chris Simpson running in P12. You've got Adam Patterson around him as well in P number 15. Just behind them, you've got yourself P16, P17, Steve Hefford and Daniel Hunt, Robert Plumley in 18th, James Dillon 19th, and then Carl Handley running out your top 20. We have got a slow car there, I believe, just getting out of the way to just show you some of the drivers working themselves towards the rear of the field right now. And it's Bertie Curtin and also Tim Adcock trying to recover after a disastrous start to his event here today. Well, the gap out front back up to 4.8 seconds past the halfway point of this race right now, and that is between Roderick Zavidovic leading the way and Tom Ward in second place. But Ward gonna have a bit of company this time by from Mark Mercer as they come down in towards turn number 1. Mercer looking as though he's gonna have that position, but he's gonna have to work for it there on the outsides. We work themselves on board then with Tom Ward. You can see alongside him is that number 33 car, Mark Mercer. So work themselves down to turn 3 and 4. Sorry, turn number 3, Rachel. Mercer, the beneficiary that time by.
Yeah, Mark Mercer definitely gaining on that one there, but definitely temporary. Those three so close together right now, and this is that exact fighting we mentioned. This is why Savidovic is running away so much, is they aren't really willing to concede. They don't want to particularly run in line. We thought for a time they would be, but right now they're all, I think they've given up on catching him. So right now it's a fight for second and third.
And you can almost say the same thing with this second pack right now with Richard Avery, Keith Sharp, Stuart Adcock, although they do look as though they're playing ball a little bit more. And well, that last time by, Richard Avery did himself, Rachel, a lap time of 1 minute 21.554, his best of the lap actually, 7 tenths of a second faster than Paul Grillo. If you can do another 2 laps like that, he will be back into draft range. We're just having a look at the gap out front. It remained at about 2 seconds as these guys battling ahead of them once again, separated by half a second. And it does look as though that Keith Sharp behind, allowing Avery to try and lead the charge in this battle right now.
Yeah, they are in fact, Will, and of course this is still pretty tight. Of course, we're only 12 laps in, so 7 laps to go. These tyres are going to be heading just past their prime now, so it'll be a race of consistency from here on.
As you can see, Keith Sharp then down at the rear of that second pack, but you can see Paul Grillo just battling still with Tom Ward and Mark Mercer. It's Ward who leads that second train right now, but they are 5.5 seconds behind your race leaders. Work ourselves on lap number 12 of 19 here. We have a look from the rear of Tom Ward. They come down into that infield section once again. And, well, Ward has got himself a lot of company with Mercer and Grillo, but they are trying to make sure that they stay ahead of this pack of Richard Avery, Stuart Adcock and Keith Sharp. That gap, Rachel, now down to just 1.5 seconds last time by. Avery 2/10 of a second faster than Grillo once again.
Yep, Grillo and Avery definitely trading some times right there, but Avery is running a little bit more smoothly now with Sharp and Adcock, so those three might catch that front pack and give them something to worry about.
So then down in towards that final corner they come once again. Gap is 1.4 seconds right now. Will Mercer try and get that pass complete over the driver of Tom Ward? They come down in towards turn 1. We've seen them switching positions the last couple of times by. You can see Tom Ward going defensively. Mark Mercer working himself on the outsides. They come down in towards turn number 1 and they battle for position, and Mark Mercer will be the beneficiary there. As behind you do have yourself Keith Sharp trying to put a bit of pressure all of a sudden onto the rear of the driver of Richard Avery. They didn't do anything down into that corner. Gap is though back up too. So Stuart Adcock gets past. That gap is back up though to 1.9 seconds as Grillo right on the rear of Mark Mercer. Well, this is a little bit like Daytona 500 all of a sudden. Back in the day, Rachel. It's almost tangoing going on here.
Absolutely, it's definitely a little bit of a draft fest right now. As tight as this circuit is, these guys are so fast, it comes down to drafting buddies and packs. I don't think I ever see any sort of single car separation going on from these boys. It's always fast, furious and frantic.
Matthew Banyals and Rob Kane separated by just half a second right now as you run through your top 10 as it stands. It is Roger Kasimidovic leading the way from Tom Ward, Mark Mercer in third, up 3 positions, Paul Grillo down 2 spots, Stuart Adcock up 1 position, Avery up 4, Keith Sharp down 2, Strictly up 5, Williams up 2 positions, and then Matthew Daniels running out your top 10. He is down 2 spots. Daniel Hunt and Carl Hadley, big shout out to them, up a number of positions here today, as is Hefford in position. You can see one more time, it's going to be Mark Mercer looking to the outside of Tom Ward once again, repaying that favour as they come down in towards that first corner once again. And well, that gap, it's still about 1.5 seconds, and this is actually going to slow them down a little bit more because Mercer can't complete that pass immediately. They stay side by side. That cost them a couple of attempts of a second. We almost have ourselves a new race on. You can see now Grillo looking down to the inside of Tom Ward as they come down in towards turn number 2. Grillo is going to get that pass complete, but what it's done, Rachel, is it made it a race again because of the fact that we now have ourselves, well, just 9 tenths of a second separating these drivers.
We do indeed, and yeah, that's a perfect example we just saw there, Will, of conceding into turn 3. Paul Grillo did exactly what he had to do. Tom Ward, did exactly what he needed to do and actually concede there, because otherwise he would have had to push wide and could have caused the 2 cars to crash. And that's the sort of kind of conscientious racing we see at a track like this. You have to just give here if you want to take something later.
You can see that gap down to 7 tenths of a second. Now Ward's not going to be too disappointed with that as we ride on board then with Richard Avery, because of course it is his own teammate now right behind him on the racetrack. Now you're going to see, let's have a look at the speed chart as they work themselves down towards turn number 1. Now of course Avery has get a little bit of that toe. He's a couple of kilometers an hour slower as they come down in towards turn number 1. He needs to be just a tenth or so closer to be able to get the full effect of that draft, but of course he will have the benefit of clean air into that first corner. The gap between Davidovich and Mercer now is 7 seconds on the racetrack. Incredible stuff. Davidovich, one of the biggest leads of the season we have seen in a very long time. It's down in the pack as well, Rachel. We have ourselves George Lee Wright trying to come back through the field. Going to take 1, going to take 2 drivers into that first corner.
He will indeed, and that's probably not the best option, but we don't exactly know how well repaired that car is, Will, and he's made that pass there, but they'll be wary next time round.
Yeah, and as you can see there, now Richard Avery has got full benefit of that draft from his teammate. There you can see though, Paul Grillo working himself on the exit of the infield down into the second to last corner. He comes. We'll get that speed chart up, and this is where we will see a big differential, although Grillo does push a little bit wide there out of the second to last corner down into the final turn. They come once again, this time by 4 laps to go, and oh, Grillo pushing very wide there, doing a little bit of off-roading. That's going to really hurt his straight line speed, and it's going to allow Tom Ward to look down to his inside as they come down in towards turn number 1. You can see Tom Ward on the go. He's going to make that move down to the inside. He's going to be able to brake just a little bit later, and well, Ward will capture that spot once again and almost making contact there with Paul Grillo side by side through turn number 1 and 2. Maybe Avery's going to try and have a go as well. You can see Grillo covering them off as they come down in towards turn number 2, Rachel. And well, it's all decided to kick off all of a sudden. It's a 6-car battle once again.
It is indeed, in that team sandwich there that Paul Grillo's stuck in right now between those friction racing cars. That will certainly have him nervous, Will. Of course, Avery, he is aggressive, we know that, but he's definitely got the speed and the talent to get past. It just matters now who will be at the front of this, and that fighting we saw is backed them up to them, and now we have a real battle on our hands.
Yep, there you can see the gap though between the front of this pack and your race leader. 7.3 seconds last time by the way. Only a tenth of a second faster was Roderick Davidovic. So it just shows if it was a straight fight, it would be very close here today. But Davidovic had an incredible start, was able to pull out because of it. Here you can see Tom Ward then. We'll have a look on board of him. Can he have a decent run out of the corner? He will get a lot of draft as they work themselves out of that final turn down towards the start finish line. They will come just 3 laps to go. You can see already Ward much faster in a straight line compared to that driver of Mark Mercer. The overspeed at about 5 kilometers an hour is much higher than that as they come down towards turn number 1. But Ward not able to make that pass complete in towards turn number 1. It well could come down, Rachel, to a little bit like what we see on Saturday nights, whether or not the drivers want to go early or if they want to go late.
Well, exactly. Well, this, I don't know if it's actually play into effect in this race with 19 laps.
We see though just behind, by the way, Clark Williams and George Streetley, and of course it's always tactical drivers getting themselves set up for that final couple of laps here. You can see Tom Ward just right behind Mark Mercer as they come down in towards the infield section once again. Grillo just behind, Avery just behind, Stuart Adcock thinking about making a peek down to the outside there of Richard Avery, and you still got Keith Sharp in that mix as well. Of course, he did have himself a little bit of contact earlier on in this event, which is why he's at the rear of that train right now. But Stuart Adcock coming into play. And Rachel, this is the difference between driving a lap in a Skip Barber and racing, as Adcock pushing very, very wide down the second to last corner.
Yeah, sure, Will. And this car is mid-engined, which is surprising for an open wheel race car, but it does have a real tendency to have lift-off oversteer. So when you're trying to get off the gas when you're in traffic, if you need to check up very quickly for someone, that could almost cause an incident in itself. So these guys have to be very, very careful. The ability to drive this car fast, as you say, is incredibly different to be able to race it quickly.
Side by side, just under 2 laps to go, and here you can see Mark Mercer going to get himself ahead of Tom Ward on the exit of turn number 1. We have a look then from on board of Tom Ward. You can see he's closing back up to the rear. Mercer, he's going to try and make a look down to the inside into turn number 2. No, he won't. Yes, Rachel.
Big accident with, guess who? George Lee Wright and Thibaut Sauban.
Yep, we'll just get ourselves a very quick look at that one then. Actually, no, we won't. We haven't got time, unfortunately. We can't get the replay up for that one. We've got ourselves Clark Williams right on the rear of George Streetley as they work themselves through towards the infield section once again. There will be 1 lap to go this time by. Here you can see it is that driver of Roderick Davidovic still leading the way. The gap between himself and Mark Mercer is 7.4 seconds. It's almost academic now for Roderick Davidovic, but we have a look from the rear of Mark Mercer, and here you can see this time by there will be 1 more lap to go. Tom Ward already looking impatient as they come down into that final corner. Right on board with Tom Ward as they come down to take the white flag. 1 more lap to go, and here you can see Ward, very good run out of that final corner. He's going to have to go well too. He's actually going to try and force himself down to the inside. What are you doing, Tom Ward? He does eventually look to the outside, goes for a gap that just simply didn't exist. They are too wide, too deep as they come down in towards turn number 1. It's the Club 100 machine. Mark Mercer on the inside, then Paul Grillo, then it's the 09 car, Tom Ward, then it's Richard Avery. That field is all bunched back up together, as here you can see now it's Grillo up into the 3rd place, but Grillo could have the opportunity to go down to the inside on Mark Mercer as they come down in towards turn number 2. Grillo not quite close enough there to be able to get alongside, but Mercer pushing wide to work himself out the corner. They are single file for the time being, but Tom Ward trying to force the issue to the rear. Grillo as they work themselves down into the infield once again. Roderick Davidovich has pulled away about 6 tenths of a second in this one lap alone. So they work themselves now just a couple of corners left to go in this event. You can see they're all scrambling for positions here. Mark Mercer will lead this train through the S's for the final time, and it now will be a case of, can Paul Grillo close up to get that second position? But what can Tom Ward do? You can see he's going to be alongside as they come into the final corner. Roderick Davidovich works himself past the start-finish line. He is your winner here today. Looks like Mercer will get second place, but who will be in P3? Will it be Grillo? Will it be Tom Ward? It looks as though it will be Paul Grillo in third place, Tom Ward in fourth, Richard Avery in fifth, Keith Sharp in the sixth position. Rachel, very close last lap there in your front pack.
Well, you can take a breath now, Will, because the race is over. Well, for most of these guys, of course. Big battle there for second through fifth position right at the end. Well, we thought it'd be big once things bunched back up again, and it certainly was not disappointing. It was a tough round here. Just very difficult track, but incredibly tight finish and very clean up at the front.
Yeah, they can see the last of the drivers on the lead lap work themselves past the start-finish line now to complete their event here today. Well, we didn't have many retirees when all was said and done. 29 drivers finished here today, as we'll run through your final race results in just one moment's time. But it was Roderick Davidovich who did win by an absolute country mile here, and here's a well-deserved victory by him, one of the biggest wins we have seen in a very long time. The Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Championship. And let's run you through then your final race results. So you can see Roderick Davidovich claiming victory by 8 seconds from Mark Mercer, Paul Grillo in third, Tom Ward in fourth, Richard Avery in fifth, Keith Sharp, Stuart Adcock, George Streetley, Clark Williams and Matthew Daniels running out your top 10. And then we've got ourselves Rob Kane in 11th, Peter Cohen in 12th, Chris Simpson, Raymond Norris, Steve Hefford, Robert Plumley, Alan Patterson, James Steele, Mark Turner and Carl Hanley rounding out your top 20. Simon Maltby, Fahim Atanidas in the 22nd position, Tim Adcock in 23rd, Rich Jones, Paul Thurston, Bertie Curtin, Blake Townend, Adrian Bidwell, David Grunhill and George Lee Wright rounding out your top 30. The final portion of your results there. 37 drivers took the green flag here today at Summit Point Raceway. We had ourselves a total of 30 finishers. Abel Subren in 31st, Ross McWilliam, Daniel Hunt, Tim Gibson, Alan Percy, Jonathan Maycock and Pete Newman, all drivers finishing out of the race. In this episode, for just a couple of moments, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back after these messages. You're watching RaceSpotTV.
It's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines!
he wins his first NASCAR title